Anyways, the big story of the week, honestly, is the United Healthcare CEO. What's his name? Who is he?
Shit, I forgot. Damn.
I'm sorry. We lost the paperwork. We know
Was it
you're in the system, but we're gonna have to put you on hold so we can make sure that like we actually have you in the system. So if you could just like wait on hold for a moment so we can find out what your name.
Brian Thompson? Yeah.
Ryan Thompson, the CEO of United Health, was killed on Wednesday morning outside of the Hilton on 6th Avenue. Oh, I've stayed near there before. So it's a nice area. In what police described as a targeted attack by a gunman lying in wait for him. And all those right-wingers were waiting to report on this story like, yeah, New York crime. That's how you guys gotta look over your shoulder because New York is it's a dangerous city in Midtown Manhattan. People are always trying to pickpocket you and stab you and shank you and snipe you from 8 avenues down on the other side of the island. But no, it was very clearly like, and I knew it was because
Of course.
I was thinking of there's like a tech executive. I'm not sure if they were a CEO, but there's like an executive in San Francisco a couple years back, like during the COVID era, and they were randomly like, I don't know if they were stabbed or shot or something right outside of their hotel. Yeah, and Elon Musk immediately was like, San Francisco is a cesspool. You've got all these fentanyl addicted drug addicts who were just killing random strangers in the street and no one can even walk home. So it turned out to be like one of his business associates. Like
his brother or some shit or something.
It's like, of course.
Literally.
But Jessica Tisch, the New York City police commissioner, said, quote, DEI hire. I'm kidding. Said, quote, this does not appear to be a random act of violence. Every indication is that this is a premeditated, pre-planned, and targeted attack. One note for that could be that the bullet casings. Did you see this piece?
Oh yeah.
I don't have it in this article here. But it was like deny, defend, depose.
Right.
Which isn't that like the name of a book as well?
I'm not sure. I didn't see that. I did see somebody commenting on that, but they didn't say that though.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure there is a there's a book called Delay, Deny, Defend that was published in 2010 about health insurance claims. And like for folks who don't know, the American healthcare system is hell.
Right.
And even though you have health insurance, you can not be covered for things. It's very common. In fact, I've had a lot of Uber drivers, which feels very comfortable to be sitting in their cars. They're describing this about having to take people who have just been shot to the hospital because an Uber to the hospital during surge timing, worst case scenario, is going to run you $70. An ambulance will cost you 3 racks.
Yeah, 3-4 racks easy
with insurance.
Yes.
In network. Even though there's supposedly these like caps about like your out of pocket costs in a year, they don't mean nothing. Americans will go like, oh well, if you go to those countries where everyone gets healthcare, you're waiting in long lines to get covered. Same with America.
Right. Try going to the emergency room at any time.
One of the most underrated jokes, like running gags in the Boondocks, is, hello, 911? Yeah, I'll hold. It's just like, it's so rough here. United Health in particular was found to be one of the first companies, even before this big AI bubble, to be using artificial intelligence to deny claims faster. So get like this, and this is something that like I've experienced in the healthcare system. Like I had a pretty good healthcare to my parents before I aged out of it, right? And whenever I wanted to like see a therapist, continue seeing that therapist after a year because I had to continue getting authorizations after a year. I have to like call some, office clerk. And I don't mean to be belittling, but I'm just like, why do I have to tell an office clerk about my like mental health problems when, this insurance is paid for? I am going to someone in network to see one of your doctors that you pay for. All right. My problems are between me and the doctor that, by the way, you pay like this. And this is one of those like health managed organizations, not to get too far in the weeds, right? But like, this is not like a PPO where like the insurance company and the practitioners are separate, right? Like, no, the doctors are hired by this particular insurance company. The hospitals are owned and named after this particular insurance company, right? So like it's like going to a grocery store saying, "Oh, you want to buy milk? I'm sorry, we don't take US dollars if you want to buy milk. You got to exchange those for Canadian yen, but you got to Canadian yen, Canadian dollars, but you got to explain why you need that milk."
Right.
And like you don't, and like it can be the easiest reason, it can be the most difficult reason. You're lactose intolerant, you need the lactate. Okay, you got to get a reason for that, and that one you got to get in Mexican peso.
Right.
So,
And you got to
and
wait 45 minutes.
and every single time you run out of milk, you got to run through that same process again. Okay,
Literally.
that's the magic of American healthcare when you're paying for health insurance through the tit through it.
Hmm.
And then Americans will still walk around here going, "Well, at least we're not taxed for it."
Oh my God.
Enter Ben Shapiro.
Oh
And
no.
so,
God.
like, there has been this general reaction on the left and the right, frankly, that's like, isn't it kind of amazing that we have this situation where, you know, um, you know, I don't think anyone was like, I didn't really know who the United Healthcare CEO is. I have a different health insurance company who I would like their executives to be a little bit nervous. Um, I think it was like I was thinking it was like Blue Cross Blue Shield or something like that, who was like, we're going to start not we're not going to automatically approve anesthetics for entire procedures. We may cut you off of anesthesia halfway through your procedure if we decide we don't want to cover it because it's too expensive. And that story came out the same day that CEO got shot. And just tonight they were
Right.
like, actually, listen, we can give you all the morphine you need, brother. You're all
How
good.
much,
Don't worry
how
about
much,
that.
how much anesthesia you need? You need Kanye mom levels? What you need?
we we talking Michael Jackson? You want Beat It or Thriller? At BK, you got it. So yeah, let me go into Ben Shapiro, who seems to be the only American. Like I saw right wingers who were again not celebrating. I mean, yes, celebrating his death. Again, these are not people who are like happy that someone targeted him, but these are people who are like, I'm not going to go out of my way to mourn this person.
Right.
When people say, let's everyone take a moment and hold this person in our thoughts and prayers, these are people left, right, and center who are going to be insulted by that. Because these are people, and everyone in America either has the story or has a family member who has the story, or, unfortunately, too many people in America have lost a family member or family members through a story similar to this. Is that either there's end of life care or preventative care or some other sort of care that would have been possible in another country and would have been cheaper in another country, but some bureaucrat at a private health insurance company decides in a for the sake of conversation, let's call it a death panel. A group of anonymous individuals at a private health insurance company decide in a death panel that they're going to let's just for the sake of argument call it a pull the plug on grandma. All right, all of these different phrases that were used to describe the public option, the original Obamacare, not Romney care, which is what we actually got, but the original Obamacare, like a single payer healthcare option in this country that still would have allowed for private insurance. These are things that actually happen in private insurance. These are things that United Healthcare couldn't have been bothered to even hire people to do. United Healthcare laid off workers whose job it was to tell grieving families that the insurance company was not going to pay for their dying loved ones' health care, and that they're going to have to deal with death insurance, which, by the way, is a different company, but they can direct them to you if they want. This was that company that was doing that, and they couldn't even be bothered to hire people to do that. They got AI to do it.
Jesus.
Republicans, regular Republican people who have dealt with this traumatizing healthcare system in this country hate that shit.
Right.
Democrats, who even the most Hillary-loving ones have a soft spot for Bernie Sanders when he's talking about Medicare for all. Had a soft spot for the old Kamala Harris talking about Medicare for all. Hate Pete Buttigieg when he said Medicare for all who can afford it, because we all saw through that shit. It seems like the only person who has no problem with this setup is Ben Shapiro. So we're going to play some of these clips here. I promise you it's going to be somewhat worth it. I'm going to not do it at like super fast speed like I usually do.
Because he talks so fast already.
Well, so do I, but you know.
Was the CEO of United Health. He is walking past the shooter. The shooter seems to emerge from the shadows, shoots him again, calmly, walks by him and appears to shoot him a third time. The suspect has not yet been identified, fled on foot after the shooting outside a Hilton hotel in Midtown Manhattan around 6:45 a.m. Apparently, the suspect rode an e-bike to Central Park, and that's the last place that the suspect was seen. Police said that this was obviously a planned attack. They don't actually know why. Here is Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch explaining this was not, in fact, a random act of violence.
This does not appear to be a random act.
Okay, I kind of described this part already.
Targeted.
The body. Apparently, the gun jammed. You can actually see this happen in the video. The gun jams during the attack, and the shooter then proceeds to rack the slide in order to clear the jams. This is somebody who knew what they were doing, at least on a very basic level. And apparently, if you can just get away with it, then this person had this planned out pretty well. Apparently, Paulette Thompson, his wife, told NBC News there had been some threats against Brian Thompson. She said, basically, I don't know, lack of coverage. I don't know details. I know that he said there were people that had been threatening him. The United Health Group is one of the biggest companies in America. It includes the biggest American health insurer, as well as doctor groups and other assets as well. And Thompson was the CEO of the insurance unit, which is called United Healthcare. The company appeared to remove profiles of its executives from the website following the attack. The United Health CEO of the overall company, not just the insurance branch, said in a video message to employees, Brian was a truly extraordinary person who touched the lives of countless people throughout our organization and far beyond. It's a terrible tragedy. Now, there are a number of things to be said about this. Obviously, number one, New York City is governed horribly. When you're having assassinations in public places in New York City, that goes to the way that law enforcement.
Does Ben Shapiro say that Dallas, Texas is governed poorly because of JFK? Wait, Ben, you're on mute.
I saw JFK get shot on Instagram to Brazilian funk music. What's going on there?
Let's get it popping. Enforcement is deployed. What law enforcement is allowed to do. When you have violence that has become commonplace on New York streets, that goes to governance. I mean, simultaneously, as this is happening, the jury is still out in the case of Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny, of course, is the Marine veteran who took down a crazed drug abuser named Jordan Neely on the New York.
Okay, Donald Trump Jr. is also a crazed drug abuser. But do you think that, like, if anyone attacked Donald Trump Jr., Ben Shapiro would be like, this Marine veteran hero took down this crazed black?
or Peter Hegseth or whatever his name is. Also, like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Like, what are you talk about? The fool getting his fucking cap peeled. What are we talking about?
In New York subway, as
it's a Ben Shapiro tactic for sure. It's like, let me do the sleight of hand. Let me do the Gish Gallop and the sleight of hand at the same time.
Jordan Neely was threatening other members of the public in this subway car. And you'll recall that Daniel Penny put Jordan Neely in a submission hold, and Jordan Neely later died because of that. Supposedly it was because of the submission hold. It also could have been because of the drugs in his system or his reaction to the lack of air to the brain. The bottom line is that is clearly not a manslaughter or murder charge. New York City is...
I gotta pause it there again because...
Pause it for a second. Pause it for a second.
This is the same thing they said about George Floyd, is that he didn't die because he was suffocated. He died because he had drugs in the system, and the drugs were preventing air from getting to his brain while he was being suffocated.
It could have been a lack of oxygen to his brain, but like, no, it's probably the weed.
It's probably the weed making it so his brain was taking in less oxygen as usual. So unlike the average person who can just survive being choked to death, he actually died, the bitch.
I don't know why nobody wiped Ben Shapiro's nose when he went to go see Wicked for the third time.
That charge anyway, because the city is governed horribly. Here, for example, is the lead Daniel Penny prosecutor, a person named Daphne Yoran, who is such a left-winger that while she is prosecuting Daniel Penny for the great crime of standing up to potential violence on the subway system, she is bragging about a light sentence that she went to pursue for a thug who killed an 87-year-old.
I had a murder case where the defendant did not intentionally kill the victim. He went into an ATM on the Upper West Side and tried to rob an individual. Unfortunately, it was an older individual. He was 86. And in the course of the robbery, he fell to the ground. And as a result, he died.
Can I also just pause it here to say, Ben Shapiro specifically said the phrase, the lead Daniel Penny prosecutor secured a light sentence for a thug who killed an 87-year-old. Where did Ben Shapiro get those words? Fox News headline: lead Daniel Penny prosecutor secured light sentence for thug who killed 87-year-old in ATM. Damn, it would be so easy, dude. You just wake up, you read Fox News headlines, you figure out how close you can get to the slur without saying it, and then we'll see in a little while who's working an advertisement. Dude, it would be so easy. Why do we bother? Why do we bother?
Right.
I'm gonna skip through like the whole DA thing because like you see where he's coming from through this, but yes.
So this, of course, is crazy, and it's precisely this kind of approach to law enforcement in which...
And by the way, it's like she's describing, yeah, I could throw the book at this kid, but like he's going to take up government resources. He's going to be like in jail forever. Like, what is this actually going to do for a system that's supposedly going to call itself about rehabilitation? I see where he came from in life. I see where, you know, I think her words were like, okay, he got to the point where like, he decided to, like, he thought that his best way to survive was to rob an 87-year-old the ATM. There's a way to rehabilitate this person potentially. So I'm going to opt for that versus just like throwing the book at him. Ben Shapiro's like, no, obviously you should vaporize him for his crimes. He'll never learn.
A person who robs an...
But unless their name's Trump, unless they're from the Trump family, or unless they're a Republican who might like lower my taxes, in which case give them 10 chances.
87-year-old man, and the 87-year-old man is knocked to the ground and dies. The person who does that is given a light sentence by a prosecutor, but a person who's defending the public from an actual criminal is charged with manslaughter in New York City. That's just another reason why
Penny's defending the public from a criminal. Dude was a Michael Jackson like dancer on the subway who was like going through issues because like, yeah, he's homeless in New York City.
He hadn't attacked anybody yet, if I remember correctly. And also just, yeah, dude, you got to do your thing, but don't kill the guy, dude. Like, your freaking racist rage came out. You got to pay for it.
I've been on like dates with people in the city where you get on a subway car and there's someone who's just like wilding out. And guess what you do? You get on the next subway car.
Keep going. Yeah.
They got like they chain like 6 to 10 of them bitches together. You just get on the next subway car.
Literally. I mean,
You just slide that door open. You keep it pushing, dude. Like
you go to downtown LA, you know what's gonna happen. You know what's going on. It's zombie land. You just keep walking, dude. Don't engage. Just keep going.
1720, you know what you're getting into.
Violence is being propagated to an extraordinary extent in New York City these days. And not a shock, by the way, in terms of updates on the Daniel Penny case, jurors have been in deliberations for a couple of days. At this point, they've asked to rehear a couple of pieces of evidence in that.
And so it's very interesting, just like, I'm just going to continue to let him like blabber through the Daniel Penny thing, because just like, this is supposed to, like, we haven't even gotten to like the main like boot deep throating that we're really going to see of like the main part of the clip. But like, this is all supposed to be like a look at New York, this crime infested cesspool, and how terrible it is, and you know, how dangerous and awful it is. And of course you would expect a healthcare CEO who everyone in the media, from the cops to the press, who just repeats what the cops are saying, to the security camera footage, is like, this was not a random attack. This is a premeditated attack against a United Healthcare CEO who, like, listen, the left talks about capitalism and, you know, no ethical consumption under which, and there's a lot of death and destruction that, you know, everyday people are slightly responsible for, and definitely a lot of CEOs are responsible for. But again, in the United States, a company that literally decides which of its customers get to live or die, I'm not exaggerating. We all have to pay insurance. Like, that's just a law that Obama created, that the Supreme Court upheld, that like we just all have to buy insurance. And they get to decide whether the insurance you pay for is going to cover you in certain situations or not. And you have to fight for that coverage, even if you're injured, even if you're in a hospital bed and you're, you know, can't get, like, all of this stuff. We've heard all of these stories. Ben Shapiro is about to lick that boot so clean. You're going to wonder why his wife is so dry.
In place in New York City. But there's something else that's going on here too. And that is the left-wing reaction to the murder of Brian Thompson.
Oh.
So there's a person whose name is Anthony Zankis. Anthony Zankis is apparently a professor at Columbia.
He's going to cherry pick a leftist. That's what
And
right-wingers always do.
Again, amazing. This person teaches at Columbia and calls himself a trauma expert, anti-violence, commie. This is in his description. A communist who's against violence. He put out a tweet saying, quote, today we...
A commie who's against violence. Almost as funny as a capitalist who's against violence.
mourn the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, gunned down. Wait, I'm sorry. Today we mourn the death of the 68,000 Americans who needlessly die each year so that insurance company executives like Brian Thompson can become multimillionaires. So that would be basically he deserved to die because United Healthcare is a mildly profitable company. When I say they're a mildly profitable company, I mean that when it comes to the health insurance industry, the profit margin is generally below 2%. You're not talking about industries where the profit margin is 10, 15, 20%.
Talk about Grand Canyon missing the point. Why are you mad about him? He's not even making that much money when he decides to kill your family. With 2%, he might as well be running a grocery store. It's basically Kroger.
Oh my God. Of course it's Ben Shapiro too. Like,
dude, I promise you it gets better / worse.
Oh God.
You have a lot of problems with American health insurance and how that is run. That is because of the legal structure that has been set up for health insurance in America. And we can talk about all the fixes that need to happen. How the truth is that health insurance should not be tied to employment. About the fact that you should be able to opt into various levels of health insurance rather than basically being shoveled into one of a few categories. We could talk about the fact that an enormous amount of healthcare should actually be provided just on a pay-for-play basis, as opposed to via insurance. It's bizarre that in order to, for example, just go get a normal checkup, that should be covered by insurance. What are you insuring against? That's typically not what insurance is for. Insurance is for an unexpected situation that you are betting might happen. And the insurance company is making the bet that it probably won't happen, or at least not in the time frame that you're talking about. That is why you have, for example, fire insurance. It's not because you know tomorrow you're going to set your house on fire. That'd be arson, and it would violate your insurance policy. It's bizarre that health insurance in the United States works such that it is called insurance when in reality, it's just a kind of subsidized form of group coverage.
Pause it for a second.
But in any
Bam, you have any thoughts on that?
So this is like the extreme libertarian bullshit. Like it should just be pay to play. So yeah, if you get your freaking hand blown up by a firework, yeah, you got to pay $10,000. What? Yeah, hopefully, yeah, maybe they'll do the roads pay to play too.
Yeah, you ever been to Orange County? No. I mean, like, this is. I've been covering Ben Shapiro for so long, too long, that this is just another case of him saying stupid things confidently. So if you're as stupid as he wants you to be, you'll just go, "That sounds good."
That makes sense. Yeah.
But we're so like Ben Shapiro is trying to say the system is wrong from like the wrong angle. And no, we all know the American healthcare system is messed up. But it's not messed up because it covers too much. It's not messed up because we pay for like because I honestly get kind of mad that I have to pay copays when I go to a doctor because I lived in England and I know that's ridiculous. I still remember being in England and getting injured, and they reimbursed me for the fact that I took a taxi to the hospital.
Jesus.
They gave me back the equivalent of like $50. And that was what I spent at the hospital. Negative $50. I got reimbursed $50 for going to the hospital in England. Now, if I just get a physical, and remind you, like, it is good that you have young, healthier folks who are paying insurance. Like, yeah, I'm probably paying for more insurance than I should be, / my employer is. But that means that I'm able to essentially go and get annual, semi-annual checkups for $10 essentially to me, right? That means that I'm able to make sure that I am taking the steps to catch potential health issues before they become massive health issues, because preventative care, like what's the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That also means the same thing in an economic sense. If you're spending less, you will be spending less money to catch something earlier or to prevent something than you will if you actually have an issue when you catch it later. But no, Ben Shapiro, the same person who says if your house is flooded due to climate change, just sell it. He's got your answer for insurance in the economy. That's just incredible. But no, he's going to continue to defend health insurance companies, saying the left is so rabid. Like, how could the left, by the way, right wingers were also celebrating this too. How could the left be so rabid at this time?
In any case, you can have whatever arguments you want with the system. The idea that because you don't like this system, the CEO of a private healthcare company deserves to die, or at least it is his fault if 68,000 Americans, quote unquote, needlessly die each year so that he can become a multimillionaire. That shows a dramatic lack of understanding of not only markets, but of morality.
I will remind you again. United Healthcare employed artificial intelligence before the AI boom to deny claims faster for people they were insuring. And if you deny claims as an insurance company, that means that you get to keep more of your profits because you're not paying out to your insured. You're not paying out to your customers.
Yeah, you're letting people die instead.
Yeah. You know, maybe you have to let some people die. But what's his name? the former chief executive, Brian Thompson, gets to fly first class.
Right. Or private.
Yeah. So I'm sorry that I gotta keep playing this because it gets so good and I'm running out of time. I'm running out of Bam's time, so I gotta keep going.
Taylor Lorenz, who, it is unbelievable, this person was once considered a well-respected reporter at the Washington Post. She clearly has a mental illness. I mean, there's something
Front of the show.
very, very wrong with Taylor Lorenz on a wide variety of levels. Taylor Lorenz recently suggested, for example, that there was a major problem in the United States with people, quote unquote, raw dogging the air. This person was a reporter for the Washington Post. Just a couple of days ago, quote, planning a COVID-safe book launch took months and thousands of my own dollars, ensuring testing, outdoor space, far UV lights, and a litany of other precautions. Meanwhile, you dumb Fs are out raw dogging the air. I'm pretty sure that's not what raw dogging means. And spewing your disease-laden breath all over your
How would Ben Shapiro know?
elderly neighbors. We are not the same. Okay, so this person, who again was a well-respected, I'm just going to emphasize that again.
Pause it for a
Wonder
second.
why the legacy media.
Bam, we're gonna say something.
I was going to make a reference to a sheet, but I don't know if that's racist or not.
Are a flaming dumpster fire. This person was a well-respected journalist at the Washington Post who spent her days tracking down bad things on the internet and then going after people on the right. So this week, she has talked about the evils of raw dogging the air and also the apparent good of murdering people in public because they work for companies that you don't like. Quote, people have very justified hatred toward insurance company CEOs because these executives are responsible for an unfathomable amount of death and suffering. Now, that's not true. You might not agree with how the insurance companies run their business. You might think that the insurance companies go too far in attempting to restrict coverage or to find loopholes in their policies that prevent them from having to cover things. Okay, that's what insurance does. That's what insurance companies are. Again, what you're really criticizing is the system. Well, if you're a member of the far left, apparently you believe that somebody with the wrong political principles, maybe they should be murdered. Well, it might be good to diversify for the future because it's possible that far leftists could theoretically at some point take power. It's not so theoretical and it could be really ugly. Just
That's
another
why he
reason
goes into an
why
ad.
diversifying with gold might be
What the hell is he talking about?
Yeah, this is what the weird thing he does in his show where he's like, okay, I'm going to talk about this thing, and then I'm going to now talk about this other random thing just so you can have some red meat to get angry about. By the way, Taylor Lorenz, she's immunocompromised, and so COVID-19, like, if she catches it slightly, she's in the hospital for like a month and a half. Like it's a really rough time for her, and a lot of other people that I know, and so they're very COVID cautious. This is a country that has politicized COVID-19, due in large part to Donald Trump. And so Joe Biden wanted to make it seem like, he had solved it and that, the mask mandates were gone and over. And so not only did we take a lot of those away, we just stopped tracking COVID-19 entirely to the point where like we had to rely on municipal pee and urine samples to figure out if COVID-19 was starting to spread for the past couple of years. If it was like, bring up, and it was, and it is, like people described, it's just kind of become the new flu. We need shots for it every single year now. And there's still people like Ben Shapiro, like Dave Rubin, like Donald Trump, like RFK Jr., who will treat this as like, oh, you're wearing a mask because you're a liberal and you're afraid and you're docile to the government and you're Chinese because you like masks. And it's like, no, Taylor Lorenz and my friends and people like this just don't want to die. And so when they're saying things like raw dog in the air, it's getting your attention because like, conservatives are still learning about, intercourse with the fair sex, and they like those sort of things will get to them. But the reality is that they are, and again, I'll just continue muting this because he's running through an ad right now. But this is just a continued distraction from the fact that he is trying to lick the boot of CEOs. He's saying, oh, and he gets so close. He's saying, you're not mad at these people, you're mad at the system. And it's like, yes, we are mad at the system. We are mad at people who, I'm not sure about the lobbying history of while Brian Thompson or whatever was the CEO of United Healthcare, but I do know what the healthcare industry did as lobbyists when they were trying to make a single payer healthcare system. Because you want to know what would have been real Doge? You want to know what would have been the real Department of Government Efficiency? Let's not have like 30 or 50 or 70 different healthcare systems in this country. Let's have one. And you know what? We already have the social security system and the IRS to handle a lot of these things. All right. We don't need all these different healthcare administrators. I mean, we're going to be handling a big system, so we'll need a lot of you. Like, we'll need a lot of people to manage the system. So you're not all fired. But like with any good American merger, a lot of y'all are going to get fired. And you know what? We don't need 70 healthcare CEOs in this country. If we have a government-run healthcare system, we need like 4 or 5 appointed people
Right.
who are just like insiders forever, all right? And so that's what they're actually afraid of. They love to pop off all of this, you know, consolidation and privatization stuff when it's them at the driver's seat. But when it's something that would benefit the people, when it's something that would be like, you know, what Bernie Sanders says, which is like, why is insulin? I'm a senator from Vermont. I border Canada. How come I can get insulin in Canada for like $30 a case, and I come down to America and it's like $300 a case? Like, what's up with that? They're 20 miles apart. It's the same pill. Like, what are we doing here? And they're afraid of that stuff because they know that they can gouge Americans and they can get away with it. And they know they can't gouge Canadians. They can't gouge French people. They can kind of do it in certain countries where they have single payer healthcare systems, like in England, where conservatives are trying to get rid of it and they're trying to make it more Americanized. But most countries won't play like that because they believe that healthcare is part of that supposed life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that Americans seem to love and care about. But no, it's phenomenal. It's so good. I won't put you, I'll stay a little bit longer because I hate myself, and I'll put myself through at least like 7 more minutes of this. But the way that Ben Shapiro just like licks so much boot in this entire piece, and claims to be part of like the populist conservatives, like, oh, Donald Trump's gonna come in and drain the swamp. He's gonna come in and like get rid of all of this waste in government. It's like, no, he's all down for waste in the private sector because that's more grift and that's more money. And if that money can be funneled from taxpayers into the private sector so that rich people can make more money, yes, that's totally fine. And so when Taylor Lorenz, as she's posted in User Magazine, it's just like, which is our own blog, she said, no, that does not mean that people should murder insurance executives. But if you've watched a loved one suffer and die from insurance denial, it's normal to wish the people responsible would suffer the same fate. Especially when they don't even have the audacity, then you have the respect to hire another human being to tell you that your favorite human being is now doomed to death because their health insurance is not being covered. They'll hire a robot to do it. Okay, so yeah. Fuck CEOs.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's and really when it comes to like what talent does this freaking United Brian, whatever, Thompson, like this guy is literally just like it's
maximizing shareholder value.
Yeah, it's just like some nepotism or whatever. Like our healthcare system here in America is really just about keeping the wealthy, making new rich people on the backs of like the working class. And you know, not to get like too historical with it, but I think part of the reason for that is just because we have never had in this country, contrary to popular belief, we did not have a revolution for the people. There was a revolution for the wealthy class in 1776 whenever. That was for the wealthy people. It wasn't like, you know, there wasn't like a French Revolution situation that happened here in this country. Everything that's happened in this country has like, it's really just to keep the rich. And it's the reason why we don't have single payer healthcare. Even to have like single payer healthcare and then still have like private healthcare, like, yeah, sure, you can still go to your freaking to Cedar Sinai or whatever you want to go to, or
Whoa.
whatever else you want to have. But we're also going to have this for like everybody else. Like we can't even have that because there's just these rabid vampire demons at the top that are just like, no, we're going to suck these people dry and make them suffer.
Whoa.
So we can hop on our private jets and have these big ass yachts and things like that. And then Mr. Brian Thompson had his wake up call. He thought he was so cool. I get up early. I worked out. I went to freaking Equinox and I worked out. I swam this morning and, I was up early. I ate my egg whites and avocado toast and, I had a
pre-ordered my sweet green for this afternoon.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to go real early to this meeting. We're going to talk about how we can get richer.
An hour early, going to finish these decks. Going to talk about how we can be more efficient, which again, for an insurance company, Ben Shapiro says it right there. It's how can we deny more people while how can we not cover people for the shit they pay for?
Literally.
How can we find,
that's called stealing.
As Ben Shapiro said, how can we find loopholes in our policy or whatever to get out of paying for the things that people thought they were paying for?
Literally stealing.
And if that unfortunately means that I'm so sorry that we can no longer pay for your anesthesia, so the rest of your surgery that you're in the middle of is gonna really hurt. Or I'm sorry that your loved one was in a car accident. Maybe we could save them, but we really don't want to pay for it. So guess they gotta die. Them's the brakes. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess that car had brakes. I guess bad joke. All right. Well, your bill will be in the mail anyways. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and so if you're grumbling like Ned Flanders and then you snap and you're like, listen, I'm not gonna do it, but if a healthcare CEO goes horizontal, I'm gonna light up one of my favorite cigars. Guess what? I don't judge you. I do not judge you.
Yeah, no. And because
that's the only justice you're gonna get in this country. You're not gonna get any money back, and you're sure as hell not gonna get your loved one back.
No, absolutely.
All you're gonna get is that pack.
Literally.
So smoke up.
And honestly, I wonder if playing at those levels, that level of money, it's a dirty game. It's a dirty game when you're playing up there with the healthcare CEOs and the freaking people that, whoever makes freaking toilet paper and shit like that, like the people that just have money hand over fist. It's a dirty game. So you never know who like, hey, we need you to take this guy out. But write this on the bullet so people think that it wasn't, that it was like a disgruntled person, not like one of us that did it. You never know. It's a dirty game up there. But either way, he's dead, and they'll get another cretin to take his place. And but we're still working for universal health care in this country. Sadly, we had a revolution. It kept slavery. It expanded genocide of indigenous people. And then like 100 years later, we had public school. So, we still got some work to do in this one right here.
My last point on this, I'll do some more Ben Shapiro stuff, but before you leave, Bam, I want to say this. I think there's something to the fact that, a lot's being read into how the Democrats lost Trump voters. I think if you're like I was saying up until the election day, if you're undecided about that election, that you're like not that smart. I'll also say that, like, if you decide to vote for Donald Trump, I think you're, not that smart, but I also think conversely, you're kind of convincible. Not totally convincible, not every Trump voter, but I also think that like cases like this, where, you saw glimpses of it during the Epstein thing, which if Kamala Harris was smarter and if they leaned into Tim Walz more, they'd be like, hey, I think, we can all agree that we want to protect our kids. Yeah. Here's a photo of Donald Trump with Epstein. And I'm just going to carry this photo around with me on every stop I go to. Like, this is going to be behind me every single time I'm giving a speech. That would have changed some things because that's like multi-partisan. The number of people on the right wing who are memeing about this as much as people on the left wing are says something, because at the end of the day, United Healthcare doesn't look at who you voted for before they decide at their death panels that Obama did not create, capitalism did. Before they decide their death panels that your loved one is not going to get their health insurance covered and they're going to have to die. All right, they don't check party. A lot of people have had that story, heard that story, and it doesn't matter what party they were. That's where when Bernie Sanders was popping off about universal health care, he had people on Fox News clapping and he had Fox News hosts sweating. And so there are ways, like, we don't have a lot of power the next 4 years being the left necessarily, but we can do what the right wing has done when they felt disenfranchised, which is we can start driving wedges into their constituency. And if we can start to get some, Trump voting Republicans to be like, hey, Trump's more on the side of that healthcare CEO that we were all cheering about a couple years ago dying than he is about, like Bernie Sanders and getting us all healthcare. I'm saying you're not going to get every single Republican, but you're going to confuse enough Republicans to where they can't get anything done. They can't repeal Obamacare. It's going to be much harder for them to cut back on Social Security. Just wedge issue them. Just make it confusing. Co-Intel the right wing. That's what we got to do for the next 4 years.
Well, I definitely think there's the last thing I'll say. I definitely think that whoever runs 2028, or they'll start running before then, they definitely have to run on universal health care. Like, whether they're probably not going to do it, but they have to run on that, like, because that's the only thing that's like really the only populist issue, other than like right wing immigration and trans athletes, that is going to get people motivated.
Yeah, I think so too. Bam. When is the second episode of History of Islam?
Never. I don't know. It'll be, it was supposed to be in November, but they were trying to kill Trump. You never know. But
where life happened. There's also, if you haven't noticed, there's been a lot of interviews on the Power Report side that we've been doing. I've been trying to like edit and get out. So become a member to get the full interviews, because I'm not going to make the full interviews public. I'm just going to put out clips, but the full interviews will be there. Bam is working on one I don't want to talk about yet, but
I'm gonna be honest. There's a lot that I have to do up until like end of February. But then, like, after that, hopefully I'll have like a lot more time.
Okay. Word. We will work through that.